Good morning. What a joy to be here today. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Society of Schenectady. I'm the Reverend Lynn Gardner. She and they are my pronouns, and I get to serve this congregation as co-minister along with the Reverend Wendy Bartel, who uses Wendy's name rather than pronouns. We are beginning our 9th year here with all of you, engaged in shared ministry together. We gather here today, some with weary bodies and hopeful hearts, or broken hearts and cheery bodies, or none of that and all of that. We come together to choose to find ourselves with others who persist, even when the odds do not seem to be in our favor. Yes?
Yes.
Yes. Alok Vadmenon, a trans person of color who is also a performer, author, and public speaker, wrote in their book, Beyond the Binary, there's magic in being seen by people who understand. It gives you permission to keep going. Self-expression sometimes requires other people. Becoming ourselves is a collective journey. That's what we're here to do, finding ourselves in this boat, becoming ourselves on a collective journey.
And now, allowing ourselves to receive the gift of our next breath. And maybe another one, this time breathing in peace and breathing out love. Come, let us worship together.
This morning, Pat O'Connor and Marian Terenzio will kindle our chalice. Katie Savani Gelfland, Director of Religious Exploration of the First UU New Orleans congregation, wrote our opening words. She wrote them in acknowledgement of the 20th anniversary of the terrible devastation of Hurricane Katrina, and we share her words. We light this chalice as a symbol of reunion. We reunite in this sanctuary to share the flow of our hearts with one another. We gather together in ritual to celebrate our fountains of joy, to hold each other through storms of grief, to guide one another through rapids of transformation, to rest together on ponds of stillness. Together, we honor the spirit of water in its many forms and its life-giving essence. Today's story is called The Rowboat. It's not exactly like this one, but also not unlike this one. Once there was and once there wasn't a man named Remy. He lived in a small, comfortable house at the edge of a beautiful lake. His home was in a village. The village had a school, a community garden, a library, post office, grocery store, a cafe, some small shops. There was a great park that had baseball and soccer fields where the local band would play during the summer. It was a great place to live. Remy had a rowboat. Motorboats weren't allowed on the lake. Remy named his boat Together because the boat helped him make so many connections. Some days he rowed folks across the lake so that they could visit their friends who lived on the other side. Or he'd deliver groceries or library books to the people who lived on one of the lake's islands. Nearly everyone in the village had been in Remy's boat at one point or another, to run an errand or for something fun. It was hard to imagine their community without Remy and without that rowboat. Their steady, sure presence made such a difference. Remy especially liked his visits to Mrs. Flores. She had lived on an island in the lake for many years, and when Remy was young, Mrs. Flores had been one of his teachers at the school. Back then, she would paddle her own kayak to get to the village. But now she was 93 years old. She wasn't quite as strong as she had been. She still enjoyed canoeing with friends or sitting at the edge of the lake, watching the water and the sky, the birds and the muskrats. When Remy rode out for his weekly visits to see her, they would sit and drink tea and talk. They would talk about big things and they would talk about little things. Well, one day, Remy was playing soccer on a field at the park and Remy fell. He fell and he badly sprained his wrist. The doctor said Remy would need to rest and let it heal. No rowing for at least 3 weeks, maybe longer. Remy wasn't sure what to do. Almost every day there were people that needed his steady little boat. What would they do if he couldn't row? Just when he was starting to feel really, really worried, his phone rang. It was his, did you know that phones could ring and like people could call and talk? That's one of the things that phones get used for sometimes. Remy's phone rang and it was his friend, Nick, calling to see if he could help. Just last month, Nick's daughter had had a birthday, and Remy had helped their family celebrate with a special birthday dinner out on the water. Nick said he'd be happy to climb aboard and take a turn with the oars. Soon more people were calling to see how they could help. Some already knew how to row, while others were grateful that Remy could be right there coaching them along the way. Rowing that little boat was a lot of work, and their community depended on it. That week, Remy's teammate Samantha rowed the two of them out to see Mrs. Flores. They brought her groceries, new books from the library, and some medicine that she needed from the pharmacy. Mrs. Flores poured them all some tea to enjoy with homemade ginger cookies and listened to all the latest news from the village. The three friends talked and laughed and sometimes just sat quietly. They were grateful for the lake, for one another, and for the boat that helped their community stay connected, and for all those who were taking turns at the oars. I'm going to invite you all, if you want, to carefully paddle your way back to your seats. You could just walk, you could just dance, you choose. I had fun learning the difference between oars and paddles and all different kinds of boats in preparation for that story. That was a fun little rabbit hole to get to go down for a bit. Yeah. I invite you to join me in a time of quiet meditation, a time of prayer, a time in which we settle more fully into our seats or into the space where we are. Feeling the steadiness of the earth beneath us. Allowing our breath to deepen. opening to that which is larger than any one of us alone, that which flows between us, connecting us to all of life. Spirit of life and love, on this Sunday morning, we give thanks for a community in which we can gather just as we are, with our strengths and our needs, our worries and our joys. This morning, we open our hearts and minds to those who are ill or injured, those recovering from surgery, those who have been going through medical treatments, those who have recently received a diagnosis and are awaiting news of what comes next. For all those among us and to those we are connected, to those whom we are aware of but may not quite know fully, may healing come with ease. May treatments be effective and provided with care. May we each find small ways to practice compassion, that this may truly be a community of care and support. In spirit of compassion, we open our hearts to join with all those who are grieving, knowing that this may include ourselves. We open our tender hearts to those grieving the death of a dear friend, a family member, a loved one. To those grieving the loss of a home, the ending of a relationship, or the loss of a job. To those grieving, fearful, and overwhelmed from the atrocities of the world, the human-caused harm that is creating unfathomable losses and placing so many at risk. May we have space for our grief and know that we are not alone in our sadness. We are not alone in our anger or overwhelm, which are also part of grief. When possible, may we offer comfort and companionship to those who are grieving, those who are lonely or afraid. In spirit of life and love, on this Ingathering Sunday, we are also grateful for a community in which to experience and share joy and honor milestones. We give thanks for all those beginning a new school year. May they experience curiosity, connection, and shared learning. We open our hearts to all those having transitions to new schools or colleges, a new job, retirement, a new friend or a renewed friendship, new places to live, or finding ways to settle more fully, making a home where we are. We give thanks for the beauty of this September day, for water in its many forms, and for the gifts of the earth that we receive with every meal that we are lucky enough to enjoy. With gratitude for this time together, let us share some quiet for our own internal prayers or meditations. today we celebrate and honor the gifts of water and community. For many years, this congregation has held a gathering of waters service in September, bringing the songs of ponds, creeks, lakes, rivers, oceans, mountains, fountains, not mountains, fountains, swimming pools, and faucets to be poured together. A ritual of return and renewal that is a tradition among many Unitarian Universalist congregations. Water is precious. Water is no longer a given here in New York, just as many other states and locations have already experienced. You may have brought water with you today. Water collected with gratitude while on adventures near or far, or quiet time spent at home, puddles in the park, or kayaking on a river, fly fishing, or floating on a lake. It may be water from a hospital, or an office, or a garden hose, or your faucet at home. You may be planning on using water from one of the pitchers available because you forgot yours or you didn't know about it. And for those online, there will be water poured on your behalf. Whatever the source of the water, it can represent so much. It may be our connection to a particular place, a special time, or people we love. It may represent a feeling, a sense of peace, a sense of hope or sadness. Maybe for you, the water represents so many tears, as our lives can include so many losses. Maybe for you, the water represents love, a love that is always with us in celebrations and in the hardest times. Whatever the water is for you, it is welcome in this ritual just as you are. When it's time to pour, please share just a bit, as there is certainly a thing as too much water. If you're wishing you had brought water today, don't worry. There are pitchers available at every table that can symbolize whatever you wish the water to be. In a few moments, we'll invite those in the sanctuary to make your way to one of the 4 vessels that are available at the top of the circle. Thanks to worship team members Tom Compron, Robin Salvin, Lars Dahl, and Jeff Lundy for being present at the tables for this ritual.
Those who wish to participate in this gathering of waters, we ask that you go up your section on the right side, figure out which one's right side, make your way to the table, and come down on your left side. In other words, you'll be moving clockwise, if that helps. For those of you in the middle section, because we know that many people sit there, there are actually 2 tables behind your section. So maybe the very back row, maybe the second to last row, you can bypass the first table and go to the second table to just kind of help the flow of that go along.
I see what you did there. Flow.
Yeah, the flow along. And that will help things carry along and flow like a river. And as you think of all that this water represents to you, pour just a little bit and then return to your seat. And Maria will play a piece called Water by Brian Crane. This is a time of sacred ritual. So That was saved from last year's service, which also has water in it from years before. Water that has come from many places around this beautiful earth, including from our partner church in Marș-Vârșăhei, Romania. And that is the water that we used to bless the board with earlier. After this gathered water is purified and cleansed, it will be used throughout the year for other rituals like next week's teacher blessing, child dedications, house blessings. We also give some to the memorial garden with thanks to the congregation's ancestors, as well as to the Mohawk River, to honor the Kanyen'kehá:ka, also known as the Mohawk peoples of the Haudenosaunee, with gratitude to this precious earth and this place where we live.
We bless this water and its capacity to nourish, to sustain life, to reflect beauty, to inspire going with the flow. We honor the nourishing and life-giving waters of this beautiful planet that we share and offer gratitude for those who nourish and sustain this community with your presence, truth, and goodness. May we all be blessed, and may we all be a blessing.
We first heard and sang our opening song this past June at our UUA, Unitarian Universalist Association General Assembly. The song was written by Laura Zucker, a member of the house band of the Mount Diablo UU congregation in Walnut Creek, California. This boat is steady, this boat is sure. When you're ready, climb aboard. When you're ready, grab an oar. Something like that. This boat will carry us to the farthest shore. When we first heard this song at General Assembly, I thought, well, that's a catchy hook. It played several more times over the week as we gathered for the business sessions in the large, cavernous plenary hall at the Baltimore Convention Center, just a short walk down from our hotel. One time, as it was playing, I particularly noticed the line, "Every rainbow needs the rain." Perhaps because the evening before there was a huge rainbow outside our hotel window, just as the co-moderators tapped the gavel to conclude the online-only session 1 and invited us to convene for the next day. On another day, perhaps it was after our misguided politicians bombed Iran, even if you've been tempest-tossed, even if you feel that all is lost, if you're sinking like a stone, this boat will carry you home. The phrase tempest-tossed, to be tossed by impactful wind, buffeted about at sea, a phrase used in Shakespeare's play Romeo and Juliet as a metaphor for Juliet's sorrow that Lady Capulet thinks is for the death of her cousin Tybalt. And Shakespeare used the phrase later in Macbeth, but not in The Tempest, just tempest-tossed. And I am no Shakespeare scholar, but I find words and their use fascinating. There's another famous use of this phrase found in the words of a sonnet written by another. Anyone have any guesses who that might be? There may be more than one, but there's only one I happen to be thinking of. Let's see if this helps. Poet Emma Lazarus was asked to contribute an original work for a fundraising effort. Any guesses yet? A joint effort between France and the United States. Yes, indeed, a few of you have guessed it. At first, she declined, suggesting she could not write a poem about a statue. She was busy working to assist refugees in New York City, Jews particularly who were fleeing anti-Semitic pogroms at the time. And according to Yasmin Sabina Khan, in her book Enlightening the World, The Creation of the Statue of Liberty, as quoted on Wikipedia, Emma Lazarus says she saw a way to express her empathy for these refugees in terms of the statue. And in a different article, a wealthy Southern woman of influence, Constant Carey Harrison, claims to have been the one to convince Lazarus to contribute something to the effort. The stories behind words are also fascinating to me. Whether she came to saying yes on her own or through the influence of another, in 1883 she wrote a poem called The New Colossus. Not like the brazen giant of Greek fame with conquering limbs astride from land to land, here at our sea-washed sunset gate shall stand a mighty woman with a torch, whose flame is the imprisoned lightning and her name Mother of Exiles. From her beacon hand glows worldwide welcome. Her mild eyes command the air-bridged harbor that twin cities frame. Keep ancient lands your storied pomp, cries with silent lips. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. The wretched refuse of your teeming shore, send these, the homeless, tempest-tossed to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door. This sonnet would fade from memory briefly as Ms. Lazarus died from cancer in 1887, just 4 years after it was published. But a friend found it in a book years later, and through her civic effort, the poem was eventually inscribed on a plaque installed on the pedestal of the Statue of Liberty. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. The wretched refuse of your teeming shore. Send these, the homeless tempest tossed to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door. What are we doing? We have lost our way. Tempest tossed, buffeted by the winds of life, literally on the ocean or metaphorically as challenges come our way. Tempest tossed. Do you feel that way these days? I sure do. The winds of deceit are blowing, the blustering of obfuscation is distracting, the gales of misinformation are disrupting, the gusts of hypocrisy are infuriating, the roar of ruthless abuse of power is overwhelming, the thundering of nationalistic propaganda and gun violence is terrifying. We are tempest-tossed by all this and so much more. And sometimes two things can be true at once. The winds of joy are also blowing. The zephyrs of kindness are surrounding. The breezes of brilliance are shining for us all. The gusts of gutsy innovation are benefiting life, and the roar of revelatory rigor reveals and reveres truth still. The currents of compassion caress and connect us. We are tempest tossed because of love and loss, rather than lies and fake gold embossed trinkets of self-aggrandizement, an advertisement that 47 can be bought and sold. And for now, it is we who must to the truth hold. Our duty told, proclaiming a love that is humble yet bold, in which we behold a land foretold as a lady of liberty lifts a torch to light the way towards the farthest shore, where freedom can enfold us all.
At June's General Assembly, each time we sang, the chorus of this boat kept wending its way into us. On Sunday morning, we joined in a sing-along in a convention ballroom, dancing with Catherine. With the sing-along was led by Reverend Erica Hewitt, who is the curator of the UUA's Worship Web resource and the project lead for a new online hymnal. Erica was dressed in a sparkly silver dress and a smile that outshone it. Camille Halton was there joining in on a screen from her home in South Africa. She has also been working on that project. Their enthusiasm was palpable from the back section of the hall where we sat, gathered with hundreds of UUs to sing some of the new songs. When we sang This Boat, Wendy and I were on our feet, clapping on the backbeat. We looked at each other and said, "Water communion?" Chuckling as the same thought occurred at the same time. This boat is as steady as we make it. And by we, I mean we make it. This boat is sure as long as we can continue to financially contribute, to give our time through volunteering and working and attending, giving and receiving. When you're ready, climb aboard. When you're ready to commit, jump in, consider becoming an official member. In the meantime, come along with us. Put your shoulder to the task, and whether we are rowing with oars facing backwards or paddles facing forwards or swimming to the other side, or however you may find yourself on this beautiful blue boat planet of ours, together we will make it to the farthest shore. That place we imagine can be, where conflict yields curiosity instead of wielding power, where justice comes because injustice is too hard for our conscience to bear, where people, all people, have food, water, shelter, clothing, agency, healthcare, and support that we all need to survive and thrive, because we choose to live with love at the center, starting right where we are. So let's get on board, grab an oar, and row together. May it be so. Amen, Ashe, and blessed be.